I pray for their family. I really, really do. I pray for their family. Anytime you can shoot somebody and say, that was my work, what kind of human would say that about another human being? We're going to get through this. Areanah will get justice. You guys are going to be seeing a lot of me. A whole lot of me.
The people I really felt sorry for was those boys. Those words came from a mother standing in a courtroom, staring directly at the 4 young men who ended her daughter's life. Not the prosecutor, not a social worker, not some distant observer trying to make sense of senseless violence. The mother, the woman who held her baby girl for first time 24 years earlier, who watched her grow into a brilliant young police officer, who poured every ounce of love and sacrifice into raising a daughter who wanted to change the world. And when she finally faced the people who made sure her daughter would never get that chance, she looked at them and said she felt sorry for them. What kind of human being says that? What kind of strength, or maybe what kind of brokenness, lets you stand in that moment and choose compassion over rage? This is the story of Areanah Preston, a 24-year-old Chicago police officer who was gunned down just 500 feet from her home on May 6, 2023, and a mother whose response to that tragedy will shake everything you think you know about grief, justice, and forgiveness. If you're already hooked, if you need to know how this story unfolds and why justice still hasn't been fully served, then do me a favor right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to Crimelab Report, and smash that bell icon because cases like this need voices. They need attention, and they need people like you who refuse to let these stories disappear. Missing out means these cases stay in the shadows longer than they should, and Areanah deserves better than that. We all do. So let's talk about who Areanah Preston really was. Because understanding her mother's impossible grace starts with understanding the extraordinary young woman she raised. Areanah wasn't just another officer in a uniform. She was what her mother called a sunflower, a ray of light, someone described as confident, determined, brave, smart, outgoing, beautiful, witty, loyal, generous, and genuine. She graduated from Illinois State University in 2020 with a degree in criminal justice. But she didn't stop there. Education wasn't optional in her family. It was everything. It was preached like gospel, and Areanah absorbed every lesson. By May 2023, she was days away from walking across a stage at Loyola University Chicago School of Law to receive a Master of Jurisprudence. Picture that for a second. A police officer working the streets of Chicago's 5th District, going home after shifts to study case law, building toward a dream of one day joining the FBI. She wanted more than just to arrest criminals. She wanted to understand the system, reform it, make it better. Areanah came from a home built on investment, not just money but time, energy, faith, and love. Her mother said it plainly in a eulogy that still brings people to tears. I gave my baby everything I had, and then some. I was determined to invest in her, so that in return, she invested in the world.
We poured into her. We poured into her education. But as I said in that courtroom today, the people I really felt sorry for was those boys. I felt sorry for them because nobody obviously didn't pour into them. Nobody told them that they were loved. Nobody told them that you can do anything like I constantly preach to my daughters. My daughter was 24. Criminal justice was her background. She graduates May 13th from Loyola. Education is what we preach.
And that's exactly what Areanah did. Her professors at Loyola remember her passion and drive. Her fellow officers respected her dedication and courage. Her family, 2 sisters, a brother, Parents, grandparents, cousins, uncles, they all adored her. When people talk about Areanah Preston, they don't just list her accomplishments. They talk about how she made them feel, how her smile could light a room, how her presence made you believe things could get better. She was 24 years old with a future so bright it practically glowed. And then in the early morning hours of May 6, 2023, all of that ended in the worst way imaginable. It was around 1:42 in the morning when Areanah was driving home to the Avalon Park neighborhood on Chicago's South Side. She'd just finished her shift, still in civilian clothes, probably thinking about getting some rest before another long day of balancing police work and her studies. She was alone in her car, less than a block from safety, from her front door, from her bed. And that's when they spotted her. 4 young men in a stolen Kia, out on what prosecutors would later describe as a violent spree that had already terrorized multiple people that night. They passed her car, circled back, and decided she looked like a target. They had no idea she was a police officer. They just saw someone they thought they could rob. What happened next unfolded in seconds, but would echo for years. The attackers opened fire. Areanah, trained and brave, reached for her service weapon and fired back. She fought. She didn't freeze. She didn't surrender. She fought for her life right there on that street. But she was outnumbered, outgunned, and the shots kept coming. She was struck multiple times. And as she lay there, the attackers did something that shows you exactly how cold this was. They took her gun and they ran, leaving her alone in the dark. Here's where it gets even more devastating. Shot Spotter, that gunfire detection system Chicago uses. It picked up those shots at 1:42 in the morning. The technology did its job. But officers didn't arrive at the scene for more than 30 minutes. Think about that. 30 minutes. Now, investigators later said that even if they'd arrived immediately, it wouldn't have changed the outcome because Areanah's injuries were that severe. But still, can you imagine? At 2 in the morning, Areanah's Apple Watch, that piece of technology on her wrist, automatically called 911 after detecting what it thought was a crash. A responding officer finally arrived around 2:15, found Areanah, and rushed her to the University of Chicago Medical Center in a police vehicle, not even waiting for an ambulance. But it was too late. She was pronounced gone shortly after arrival. The city woke up that morning to the news that one of their own had been taken. More than 500 people showed up to a prayer vigil outside Area 2 headquarters. Officers from across Chicago came to pay respects. The mayor at the time, Lori Lightfoot, the police chief, everyone showed up because this wasn't just another case. This was one of theirs.
First and foremost, I would like to thank God for giving us this angel, loaning us this angel. I would also like to thank the city of Chicago, all the police officers, the mayor, Mayor Lightfoot, Chief of Police. I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. You guys have been nothing but amazing to me and my family, and I appreciate that. Confident, determined, brave, smart, outgoing, beautiful, witty, loyal, generous, genuine, quaint, attentive, funny, giving, youthful, fashionable, unforgettable, and the ray of light. A few words to describe my baby, yet there will never be enough to define just how much of a sunflower Areanah Michaela Preston truly was to us as parents and family. And now the world. I may not know much about politics, forensic sciences, or the court systems, But there are a few things I do know about. I know what it means to have a heartbroken family. I know the sounds of my daughter's scream for their sister. I know the prayers of my husband and the tears he holds in his eyes. I know the feeling of a grandfather opening an envelope that was supposed to be mailed for graduation, and instead he's here for a funeral. I know the sound of her brother her uncle being nothing but silent through it all, but praying. I know the sounds of her cousins going into other rooms, open the doors so we don't see them cry. I know what it means as a parent to always be the driving force to your children and other children that I have poured into. However, my heart as a mother is heavy. As a mother with faith, I know for sure better days are coming ahead. And better days are coming ahead because I gave my baby everything I had and then some. I was determined to invest in her so that in return, she invested in the world. And Areanah did just that. She did more than I can even imagine. When people say you did an awesome job as a mother, that speaks volumes to me. It is so heartwarming to see just the impact she had on the city of Chicago and beyond. She was a kid full of life, dreams, big goals, and wanted to make major changes. In this tragic situation, my family and I feel triumph. We feel grace, we feel the love, we feel the hugs, and most importantly, we feel God's presence over us. There is a presence of Areanah's spirit saying, keep going, mama. You always wanted to be like me. If you didn't already know, the example that she set for so many simply encouraged them to be like Areanah. I will, my sweet baby, plan to lead. Really, I plan to lead. Love and be just like you, brave and bold with warm spirit and a contagious smile. Death is only a tragic thing if you have not lived. My baby lived. I am because of her. I pray for peace in homes. I pray for peace in our communities. And I pray for peace in my heart. Rest peacefully, my sweet baby. Mama has it from here.
But here's what's wild. While the city mourned, investigators were already closing in on the suspects, and they did it fast. You want to know how they caught them? It wasn't some high-tech forensic breakthrough. It was a friend, one of the attackers, 16-year-old kid, called his friend the next day to brag. Actually brag. He asked if his friend had seen the news about the police officer and said those chilling words, "That was my work." His friend, to his credit, immediately went to the police. While sitting with detectives, that friend called a 16-year-old back on speakerphone, and the kid admitted details that hadn't even been released to the public yet. He talked himself right into custody. Then there's the mother of that 16-year-old. She brought her son to the very police district where Areanah had served and turned him in herself. Can you imagine that? The weight of realizing your child was involved in something like this, and then making the choice to do the right thing, even though it means watching him face consequences that will change his life forever. 2 women who were with the attackers that night also cooperated with investigators, one of them coming to police attention when officers tried to tow her car from the scene, and she became visibly upset. The pieces fell together quickly. Within about 36 hours, police tracked down the 4 main suspects to a home on South Bishop Street, and what followed was an 8-hour SWAT standoff before all 4 were taken into custody. The suspects were Trevor Breland, 19 years old, Joseph Brooks, also 19, and believed to be the one who fired first, Jaquan Buchanan, 18, and Jalen Frazier, just 16 but charged as an adult. At their bond hearing on May 10th, 2023, Judge David Kelly opened with a graphic content warning before laying out what prosecutors call mountain of evidence. Police had tracked their phones to every crime scene from that night. They recovered a gun that matched ballistics from shell casings found outside Areanah's home. Surveillance footage caught them. Their own friends and family identified them. The judge looked at these 4 young men and said something that stuck with everyone in that courtroom. He said these very young men unfortunately have extremely extensive criminal backgrounds, and then he denied bail for all of them. Now here's where Areanah's mother's words start to make sense, or at least start to reveal the depth of who she is. Prosecutors laid out how this whole night started. One of the suspects had a girlfriend who said she needed money for a barbecue. A barbecue. That's what kicked off a crime spree that included multiple armed robberies, stealing a Kia, and ultimately taking Areanah's life. After they took her gun, they torched the stolen car and sold her weapon. All of this for what started as needing money for a barbecue. When you hear that, when you realize how absolutely senseless and avoidable this was, you start to understand what Areanah's mother meant when she said she felt sorry for them. She wasn't excusing what they did. She was recognizing that nobody poured into them. Nobody told them they were loved. Nobody showed them they could do anything with their lives. They were failed long before they failed Areanah. On May 13th, 2023, exactly 1 week after her daughter was taken, Areanah's mother walked across that stage at Loyola and accepted the diploma Areanah would never hold. The mother stood there in front of hundreds of people and gave a eulogy that's hard to hear without breaking. She talked about the sounds of her daughters screaming for their sister, the tears her husband held in his eyes, a grandfather opening mail meant for graduation, but attending a funeral instead. And then she said this: "Death is only a tragic thing if you have not lived. My baby lived. Mama has it from here." And she meant it. Areanah's mother created the Peace for Preston Foundation, working to build a community center that provides mental health support, mentorship, college tours, scholarships, and programs to steer young people away from the path those 4 boys took. She's not waiting for the justice system to heal her community. She's doing it herself. In September 2023, the city dedicated the 8200 block of South Blackstone Avenue as Honorary Officer Areanah Preston Way. Her legacy lives on in scholarships given in her name and in every young person her mother reaches through that foundation.
Special to me because this is a special moment that me and Areanah shared together. So to see the girls happy, in a happy space, looking forward to their prom day, it's special to me.
But here's what you need to know. As of right now, in 2025, there's been no trial, no verdict, no sentencing. The case is still moving through the courts. There was even a situation where prosecutors asked for the original judge to be removed, claiming bias, and a new judge took over with expectations the trial wouldn't wrap until at least June 2025. So those 4 young men are still sitting in jail without bail, and Areanah's family is still waiting for the closure that a verdict might bring. Justice delayed is justice denied, and this family has been waiting almost 2 years now. So let me ask you this. What do you think drives someone to throw their life away over something as trivial as needing money for a barbecue? And how do you find it in yourself to forgive, or at least to feel compassion for people who took everything from you? What would you do if you were Areanah's mother? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I genuinely want to know how you process something like this. And if this story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you that real people are behind these cases, then share this video. Let people know about Areanah Preston. Let them know her name meant something, that her life mattered, that her mother's grace in the face of horror deserves to be seen. Subscribe to Crimelab Report if you haven't already, because we're not just covering cases. We're honoring lives and demanding answers. Check out our other videos for more stories that need to be told. And most importantly, keep the conversation going. That's how we make sure cases like this don't fade into the background. That's how we make sure Areanah's legacy stays alive. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.